Red king crab is a prized seafood species caught under strict quota regulations. Fishermen work tirelessly during the season to maximize their economic returns. There's one exception where red king crab can be fished year-round. This exception applies to Norway's fishing grounds. In 2023, after a 2-year hiatus, 31 Alaskan ships vie for a 2.1 million pound quota. Meanwhile, Norwegian fishermen can build boats and fish for red king crab all year. Burgoyne's fishing village, 500 kilometers north of Arctic Circle, once nearly bankrupt. Years of overfishing and poor management limited cod quotas. Boats now sit idle in the frigid waters. Fishermen survive on meager income from catching and processing fish. Then the crabs showed up. These creatures had sharp claws and outweighed the brown crabs they'd seen down south. At first, the red king crab invasion seemed like a disaster. Crabs tangled in nets and hooks, damaging gear and letting fish escape. But learning of Alaska's lucrative king crab industry, fishermen saw potential profit. Red king crabs became a lifeline for Norway's northern fishing villages during cod shortages. King crabs rule the seas for good reason. They scour the seabed, feasting on starfish, worms, and mollusks. In the frigid Arctic waters, they face few natural predators. Millions of these giant crabs now fuel a massive industry. In October 2024 alone, Norway exported almost $9 million worth of king crab. King crab prices have tripled in just over a decade, according to the Norwegian Seafood Council. Fishermen in the region can supply these prized crustaceans to luxury restaurants and hotels worldwide. Norway recently announced an 18% increase in the male crab quota, reaching 1,810 tons by 2023. While this crab species benefits fishers and the economy, its growth is causing rapid decline of native seafloor species. Red king crabs have expanded their range to the Lofoten Islands, one of the world's largest seasonal cod fisheries. This puts government managers in a difficult position. They must balance the long-term health of king crab fishing with protecting native species and traditional fisheries. They can't push for total extermination if they want to keep supporting northern coastal communities. At the Norwegian king crab processing facility in Porto Burgoyne, workers are processing 3,000 red crabs. This is one day's production of red king crab. Soon they'll be shipped 1,100 miles to Oslo, loaded onto cargo planes, and flown to Dubai, Louisiana, and Kuala Lumpur. Fishermen in Burgoyne trap year-round, with peak season from October to January. The red emperor they catch is regulated by government quotas to ensure the fishing industry's future. Fishermen check the traps every few days. Herring and mackerel bait can catch up to 50 large crabs at once. They then return to shore to sell their catch. A Norwegian crab fishing vessel's crew typically consists of 25 to 30 people. Fishermen can meet their quota of 4,400 to 6,000 pounds per boat in 2 to 3 weeks max. Live red king crabs are sold for $120 in restaurants. Norwegian red king crabs are harvested year-round, except April for shell-shedding conservation. Hundreds of boats scour Bahia's waters to find this prize crustacean. Fishermen found crabs even in shallow waters during late spring. As summer progresses and temps exceed 42 degrees Fahrenheit, crabs quickly move to deeper, cooler waters. This helps predict their locations throughout different seasons of the year. However, its route changes yearly and modern radars can't detect them. Fishing continues until all ship tanks are full. This can take 1 to 2 months. Another popular method is called radio fishing. It involves surveying an area with multiple ships at once. When a large king crab school is found, the ship broadcasts encrypted coordinates. All ships then head to this area. Norway's cold waters and sustainable methods give the crab a unique flavor. Each Norwegian crab fishing vessel can have up to 9,000 traps. This is the maximum allowed. Fishermen attach 200 traps to a 6.5-kilometer rope. The trap is then lowered to 330, 400 feet deep. They also ensure the traps are spaced about 98 feet apart. Each trap is equipped with a bait bag. Fishermen crush squid and herring into bait bags and secure them in traps. Crabs on the seafloor are attracted and crawl into the trap. If no crabs are caught, fishermen can load about 1,000 pots onto the boat and move to another area. If red king crabs are present, they set about 200 traps, change the bait, and drop them back down. As the boat nears a trap, the fisher throws a hook to snag the buoy line. Thanks to the buoy, locating the trap takes just a few minutes. The line is then pulled aboard, attached to a winch, and the trap is hauled up. Red king crabs can be processed by boiling and freezing. Freezing crabs at sea ensures top-notch quality. That's why this dish costs more, and the cruise pay is higher too. Fishermen release small crabs and females back to the sea. Crews must deliver the catch before the crabs start dying. Dead crabs release toxins that can harm the entire catch. Red king crab is a pricey delicacy in Russian restaurants. They're also found in the Barents Sea. Russian crab fishing starts in October, sometimes January. Waters where they live now reach 39 degrees Fahrenheit. Ice covers most red king crab fishing areas until May. Consequently, all ships get covered in ice. Vessels must break thick ice to set and retrieve traps. Falling overboard is the biggest danger, with slim survival odds. King crabs prefer staying near the ice edge due to their affinity for cold water. They must constantly break ice on the boat's sides and fishing equipment. The Fisheries Commission also urges vessels to limit crab traps in icy conditions to reduce ice buildup. Fishermen also face stormy winds and waves up to 2.7 meters high. Crew members risk injury or death from heavy equipment use or ice accumulation dangers. Despite challenges, the red king crab fishery grows each season. When fishing near shore, trap locations are stored in GPS devices. This prevents traps from being removed by poachers or other fishermen. The trap is a rectangular wire structure with a soft mesh. Directional slots at both ends allow crabs to enter easily. But they can't escape as their limbs get caught in the net. After collecting crabs, fishers reset traps and move the boat. Louisiana leads in shrimp production, America's top seafood. Shrimpers struggle with costs and cheap imports to survive. It wasn't always this way. For decades, Louisiana shrimp thrived. But since the 1980s, expenses have soared. Fuel costs alone make up 30% of a shrimper's daily expenses. But with inflation, this number has risen even higher. Despite these rising costs, shrimp fishermen still set out at sunset. This is when shrimp emerge from their sediment hideouts and roam the shallows. They cast nets carefully, avoiding dragging to protect the seabed. They rely on currents to sweep shrimp into nets as they're poor swimmers. The nets drift, turning with the current. When hauled up, the catch is dumped onto the deck. Crew sorts by hand, discarding bycatch before freezing shrimp to keep fresh. Shrimpers often spend 12-16 hours at sea with no guarantee of success. Even with skill, a night's work might yield just a net full of catfish. Moreover, troublesome dolphins lurking beneath the surface sometimes tear holes in nets for a free meal, leaving shrimpers with hours of repairs and lost catch. The cost of new shrimp nets has more than doubled, and ice prices have jumped from $14 to $26 per block. On average, a day's catch can yield about 1,000 kilos of shrimp, depending on the season. The main shrimp species caught in the area are white, brown, and a small portion of pink shrimp. Louisiana shrimp contribute nearly 100 million pounds to the U.S. market annually, making it the leading shrimp-producing state. Once unloaded at the dock, shrimp begin a swift journey through the processing plant. Many U.S. families have processed shrimp for over a century, but fewer now work exclusively with Gulf shrimp. This Louisiana factory processes up to 30 million pounds of shrimp yearly, using both traditional and modern techniques. The first step is washing and sorting the shrimp by size. Next, they're fed into machines that split the shells to create easy-to-peel shrimp. Afterward, the shrimp are graded and the top quality ones are selected. Into these boxes. Each shrimp is frozen at -400 degrees Fahrenheit, preserving freshness for transport. Then, shrimp are packed in 2 kilograms bags, each with a traceability barcode. Traceability is crucial for consumers and retailers, especially when competing with shrimp from India and Ecuador. Fresh Gulf shrimp, often priced between $7 to $10 per pound, depending on the season, competes with cheaper imported varieties, lowering its price to under $4 per pound. After processing, shrimp is sent to markets, restaurants, and supermarkets nationwide. Americans consume over 1.5 billion pounds of shrimp annually. From barbecue shrimp in upscale restaurants to New Orleans' famous po' boy sandwiches, an iconic dish loaded with fried shrimp on a soft French baguette, about 3,000 pounds of shrimp could be consumed weekly at each store. Despite its $1.3 million economic contribution, Louisiana's shrimp industry is fighting for survival as 96% of shrimp docks have closed. At the core of the issue is competition from farmed shrimp. Countries like India, Thailand, and Indonesia now dominate the global market, producing shrimp at a fraction of the cost due to lower labor costs and government subsidies. Shrimp are often farmed and raised in overcrowded pens that pollute coastal waters. In India, shrimp farms have contributed to mangrove destruction, vital ecosystems that protect coasts and support marine life. Without proper oversight, antibiotics are overused on these farms, fueling the rise of superbugs, antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which already kill nearly 1.3 million people annually worldwide. Shrimp farming in some countries has been linked to forced labor and dangerous working conditions. Many workers, often women, spend hours peeling shrimp by hand in cold conditions for low wages, usually with little to no protective gear. Despite clear quality differences, QI2I lacks proper oversight to ensure imported shrimp is safe. Only about 1% of imports are checked for contaminants, including banned antibiotics. A 2017 LSU study found 30 of 42 shrimp samples in Zuaire tested positive for illegal antibiotics or antimicrobials. This puts American shrimp producers at a disadvantage against foreign competition. In 2023, Ecoda imported 1.7 million pounds of shrimp, nearly 90% of the country's total consumption. These imports, 30% cheaper, are putting huge pressure on local shrimp fishermen. They now compete with shrimp farms producing year-round, unlike wild shrimp limited by seasons and quotas. At its peak in the 90s, Louisiana's shrimp industry supported 22,000 jobs. Now that number's dropping as boats sit idle and processors close, producing 20% less than peak levels. Many shrimpers invested life savings in boats, hoping to pass them on or sell for retirement. But now, nobody's buying. The market's flooded with imported shrimp, much cheaper than what locals can produce. Shrimpers are stuck, can't get fair prices for shrimp, can't sell boats to escape the cycle. Around Louisiana, some shrimpers are struggling to find boats at all. Pushing for changes. They want more inspections of imported shrimp and stricter rules to level the playing field. They also support labeling laws requiring restaurants and stores to clearly show where their shrimp comes from. This transparency could help consumers make informed choices, supporting local shrimp and protecting their health. Yet even with new laws, some restaurants still pass off imported shrimp as local, exploiting lower prices. but the tide may be turning. Fines now hit restaurants that falsely label imported shrimp as domestic. Louisiana's health department received 2,600 violations for restaurants mislabeling seafood. Still, it'll take more than fines to save the local shrimp industry. The reality is that Louisiana shrimp are struggling. Some have seen dockside shrimp prices halve recently, despite rising boat operation costs. It's not just the shrimp that are suffering. Dock owners, some in the business for generations, are seeing fewer boats coming to unload. The industry's been hit by hurricanes, oil spills, and now a flood of cheap imported shrimp. Despite the odds, Louisiana shrimpers keep heading out to sea. They do it for love of the sea, tradition, and hope that things might improve. But without major changes, that hope might not be enough.